Okay, so welcome to our video about how to choose the right artificial turf for your yard. In this video, we're going to explore all the different reasons that you should take into an account when you're looking at artificial turf and which one's the right one for you. First thing you want to take into account is what's the actual purpose of the turf? Is it going to be for a front yard? Is it for family? Is it for pets? Is it for a sport? There is so many different types of turf that's available. Knowing what it's actually meant to be used for will categorize it a lot more simpler, so you can look at those types of turfs. For an example, there is literally residential turf, there is sports turf, and within sports turf there's 3 or 4 different types. There is playground, there's commercial playground, there's commercial building. There are so many different types and styles. Generally, most people are looking for residential. Another important factor is your budget. First, try to set an overall budget that you're looking for with your entire yard and what you're willing to put towards the actual turf itself. Keep in mind, depending on what you're looking to use this turf for, it depends on the quality that you'll need. Raw turf uninstalled can go anywhere from $1 through to $7 a square foot. To install it with a contractor, it can go anywhere from $2 up to $5 a square foot. Infill can be anywhere from 20 cents all the way up to $2.50 per square foot. Combine that all together. Just keep these ideas in mind so that way you can find, okay, this will work in our budget. This is the design that we can work with. See if you can find a turf that you actually like around town when you're driving. Literally get out, have a look at the turf. If you know a friend's turf or anything like that, that will help you narrow down what you're looking for. If you like the certain look of a type of turf, ask people, where did they get it? Who actually installed it for them, and everything like that. Traffic considerations should be taken into account as well. Is the area going to be a backyard where a pet's going to be playing on the turf? Is there going to be children constantly using the area? Is it going to be for an event space? Or is it literally going to be sitting at the front of a front yard where no one's going to be using it? Generally speaking, you can get a pretty good looking turf, and if it's not going to be used, you can get it for a little bit cheaper. However, if it's going to be used all the time, you need a high grade quality turf. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it will be able to support that use. Next will be, what features do you want for your yard and your purpose? So starting on the very top, you're going to have your blades. Now, blades come in all different styles, from a C to a W to an S. They help with structure. They also help with a little bit of shade. Some people say it helps with heat, some people say it doesn't. But it can also help with bounce back. The thicker they are, generally they can bounce up a little bit more. You want to choose one with a nice thick per square inch of blades. Okay. Next is the thatch. That's for a realistic look. Okay. A lot of that's going to be covered because of the infill that you're going to be using. But on the back, you want to use something that has polyethylene and polyurethane. You can see these nice thick stitches here. That's what you're looking for. You don't want a massive gap, and you don't want it to be a very thin stitch or anything like that. There is a different style feature for pet turf. Pet turf has a fully perforated backing. The problems with this though is that it can stretch out a little bit depending on the heat when it is installed. You also want to make sure there's always a UV inhibitor and a large warranty on your turf. Okay, so let's talk about color. I hear hundreds of times a week people saying they want a natural looking turf. What is natural? There is 60 plus different types of grasses that are out there. So the look of turf really is up to the person that's going to be installing it, or the customer, should I say, of what they prefer. So you can get dark, you can get bright. One of the biggest worries that people come to me with is, I don't want it to look fake. Well, what's fake? If it's bright, looking perfect, to me, you shouldn't worry about what other people think. It's about what you want. Do you want that perfect looking yard? However, if you do want a more natural look, there's plenty of varieties out there that have a little bit of brown in there. There's a little bit of thatch, there's different types of tones. Just have a quick look with your distributor or your installer and go through that way, and that can help narrow down the types of turf that you're looking for. Next is going to be the pile height, or the length of the actual blade itself. So generally speaking, the shorter it is, the more traffic it can handle. The longer the blade, the more lush and real it looks. However, it can carry a little bit more of a price tag because there's generally more material. This isn't always the case, but I'm just talking rule of thumb. There's an easy way to overcome all of the issues, except for the price, of course, is simply by getting a longer pile height and just filling it with more infill. My favorite is a 1.75. It's a good all-rounder for everything for high traffic, and it supports a good amount of infill at about 2 pounds per square foot. What's going to go in your turf? So This is Infill, helps weigh it down, and it also helps keep the strands and the blades upright when it's being power brushed in. It's multiple different types. This type here is called EnviroFill. It has a microband technology to help kill any bacteria or anything like that. It's green, it's coated, so that way it helps with drainage and everything. Next is a ZeoFill. It's a pet deodorizer. I always recommend putting a little bit of both on there no matter what. Pet deodorizer by the manufacturer even says that it helps keep it a little bit cool by absorbing some of the water. These are essential because you don't know if you're going to be living in that yard forever and who's going to have it next, and it can't hurt. A lot of companies do cheap out in this section, and they just use like an industrial sand, or they don't use enough. There should be between 1 and 2 pounds per square foot used on the turf. This of course does depend on the actual height of the strands of the turf. It's shorter, you need less. The taller, you need more. When looking at different types of turfs, you want to think about who's actually going to be installing this. Is it going to be a landscaper, an installation company, or is it going to be just someone like a handyman or someone like that? I will say it's always best to leave it up to the professionals that deal with it every single day, being that I'm from an installation company. However, to break them down, a landscaper generally is someone that looks after living grass and other alternatives in the backyard as well, and sometimes do a little bit of artificial turf on the side. An installation company would generally be a little bit more expensive. However, that's all that they do, is that they specialize in installing turf. They hold the warranties themselves. They generally work with the higher quality infills. Make sure that you actually research these companies, and it is a reputable company to work with. A lot of times people do get us mixed up with what's called a turf distributor or manufacturer. Most of these companies don't actually deal with the residential or customer themselves. So I would recommend going to either a landscaper or to a turf installation company. It does help knowing what your budget's going to be and what the intended purpose is. If it's for family, if it's going to be used a lot, if it's something that's a really beautiful yard, you generally want to go with an installation company. However, sometimes landscapers do come through. Just make sure you read their reviews and make sure that they deal with it quite regularly. Okay, American versus international. All right, I'm sorry, but I'm all about the American made. Generally speaking, it has a better warranty, it's made stronger, it supports America. However, being realistic, I have to admit, for the price and budget shoppers, there is some amazing alternatives that come from imported in from overseas. Generally it comes from like Taiwan, Vietnam, China, etc., those kind of places. There's some great alternatives, and there is some really good ones coming out of Mexico now as well. However, the ones that are made in America, most of them come from around Georgia. I do find that they have a very high quality, and not to mention, if there is a problem with the warranty, there's always a way of going back to the main manufacturer. So let's talk about warranties, okay? So warranties, if you're using an installation company, generally speaking, they will have the warranty with them. However, manufacturers also have their own warranty as well. Keep this into account. Are you going to be living at the house for a long time? If you are, you want a good warranty that's going to cover all of that and any issues that may come up. There's two types of warranties, a labor warranty and a manufacturer's warranty. Labor generally is towards the putting into the turf any issues like the stretching, if there's any settling, the nails coming up, all those kind of things. And manufacturer will cover any issues with the actual product itself, such as it being UV resistant, such as it starting to peel up, if there's any marks or problems in the actual turf themselves. So different turfs require different maintenance. Generally speaking, front yards require very little. Anything that's going to be with a high traffic, especially pets, requires maintenance. Have a look what that turf requires. Does it need to be brushed up very often? Does it need to have new infill? Does it have to be sprayed down with some type of a uricide for bacteria for the pets or anything like that? Keep those in mind of what you will have to do with the turf. At the end of the day, you should be looking after the turf no matter what, and that way you can enjoy it for many years. In conclusion, there are many factors to take into account. However, by narrowing down all these different features and different factors such as budget, the length, the traffic, what its intended purpose is going to be for, even the color can help you go down to a distributor and find the one that you're looking for, or an installation company. There's many different types that are out there, but you will find one that's perfect for you. And if you can't find one that's perfect for you, leave it up to the professionals. have them show you. Generally speaking, these guys have done a huge amount of research into the actual turf that they work with, because they wouldn't want to put that onto a company or to a person to then have to have issues later on. But one piece of advice I will say is cry once, buy once. Generally speaking, spend a little bit more than the cheaper and get a good quality. Get something that's going to last, something that you're going to be happy with. That's all from us at US Family Turf. We hope you have an amazing time with your selection of turf, and if you need any questions answered or anything like that, give us a call.